Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Forgotten Creatures and Features of Monster Hunter. Today we'll be going over Gigginox and Baleful Gigginox. Gigginox has a pretty good elemental spread, being extremely weak to fire and dragon and basically immune to the other elements, but more importantly is his actual hit zones themselves. His head, neck, and egg sac, which we'll see in a second, are all really good hit zones, but the interesting thing is when he enrages, they flip. His head becomes his tail and his tail his head. This applies to stuns, KO, buildups, anything. That's kind of the gimmick of Gigginox's fight, and why you'll see him flip back and forth so much in between his cave-jumping wall shenanigans. But overall, I mean, good hit zones across the board if you're hitting the right spots, or even just hitting his sides, which don't change. This guy is pretty soft to everything in general, and is this game's version of a Kezu, down to Pale Extract for Mega Demon Drug and armor skins and all. Though, don't get Gigginox twisted for some kind of Kezu knockoff. He definitely has a couple unique tricks of his own. Poison being one of them, and a more obvious one to boot. Also requiring high-grade earplugs, and having a couple buddies of his own. Those eggs on his back, if you fail to break them within a certain amount of time, will not only explode, giving you G-rank poison, and his G-rank fighter normal poison, but they also drop little Gigginoxes that'll jump on you like Zamites do, or just like a leech essentially, and slowly drain your health on top of the poison damage. Luckily the baby Giggis are easy to get off with a couple rolls, just like taking care of Fire Blight, and more serve has another tool in Gigginox's arsenal to distract you so he can hit you with his G-rank poison, or follow up with a roar and get an easy kill on you. I find him to be a pretty engaging fight in this game. I love the way he flips around a bunch to flip his head hit zones. When he enrages, it not only completely changes his color palette, but again, like flips his hit zones. Just makes for a pretty engaging fight, though poison can be an annoying ailment, and he's a bit of a pushover with those easy hit zones. A quick fight overall breakdown consists of Gigginox hitting you with an earplugs check, which if you pass the vibe check equals free damage. If you don't, it means you're poisoned. Followed by him shooting poison ball at you or a bite attack, followed by AoE poison and egg setup, him jumping on the ceiling, doing his triple poison projectile attack into a roar where he'll try to pounce on you. He'll try to flip back and forth. He has his AoE poison. He can put his eggs on his back with his tail that give you about a minute or two to break before popping into a poison cloud and dropping some Giggis on you, which can easily get you caught out and killed. A giant belly slam, also his jump back single shot poison ball that he can follow up with a long range single shot poison ball that he'll often then follow up by jumping on the ceiling. It's a lot of leading to him jumping on the ceiling to do more poison setup, but if you manage to take down a Gigginox, you can get yourself some pretty fun armor and weapons. Alright, starting with the armor, we have the Gigginox Armor X, coming with a 2-1-1-1-3 slot. It already has amazing slottage, especially considering this could easily be the first set you get in G-Rank. And the skills built in are Status Attack +2, Awaken, and Razor Sharp, meaning obviously they're great for Slime and Brachydios weapons, but they're also just amazing for the Gigginox weapons themselves. Having Razor Sharp, Awaken, and Status +2, I mean they don't need the Awaken, but the Status +2 is huge. I could see this easily mixing nicely. Those legs, having a 3 slot, honestly kind of a cool set that I didn't know about till now. And the weapons, they're not too bad either. Starting with the longsword, we have 240 true raw, 2 slots, no affinity, 240 poison, a good chunk of natural white sharpness with purple with sharpness +1. Honestly, a really good poison weapon. Then we move on to the Sword and Shield. It's got 230 true raw, so 10 less, a 2 slot again, 400 purple, little less white, but with sharpness +1. You look like you have even more white, but a little purple. Then with the DBs, we have 230 raw again, another 2 slot, 320 poison, little bit of white, purple again with sharpness 1. The light bowgun with 260 true raw, negative 10% affinity and a 1 slot, seems kind of mid. The Hunting Horn has 220 true raw, a 1 slot, 420 poison, purple sharpness just barely with sharpness +1 and a little bit of white. And last but not least, we have the Lance with 220 true raw, just like the Horn, 1 slot, 520 poison, an absolute ton of white. If you wanted to, you could get even more with sharpness +1, but it doesn't need it at all. And I come to the conclusion that Gigginox has some pretty awesome poison weapons. Unfortunately, poison kinda sucks. But his armor plus his weapons could lead to some pretty cool stuff, especially if you find a monster that's weak to poison. So basically nothing in 3 Ultimate, unfortunately. Well, maybe Steel Uragon. But that being said, Gigginox is a really cool fight, and I think he's a way better source of your Pale Extract for your Mega Demon Dragon armor skin than Khezu is. I just like that he really doubles down on that design more. He's still a cave-dwelling parasite-like creature like Khezu, except he is actually a parasite. He drops little worms that try to feed on you, he poisons you. I like the color exchange, I like that it feels like a more intelligent creature. He tries to lay little traps, he's trying to wear you down, he flips his head hit zones to keep you guessing. It's just overall a very enjoyable fight. But if we're going to talk about Gigginox, we gotta talk about Baleful Gigginox, which is a lot similar to a Khezu than base Gigginox ever was. Sporting a golden color scheme when unenraged, and a head hit zone of 45, 55, and 50, the neck of 40, 40, 40, and a tail of 50, 55, and 45 being our main juiciest hit zones and juicy across the board. However, elementally wise, it's pretty good for water and dragon, unlike basic Gigginox who was good for fire and dragon. Fun little change. When enraged, we switch that gold for red, and we switch our head and tail hit zones just like base form, and keep our same elemental weaknesses. The move Baleful's doing on me right now is one of his new moves, and it's a pin attack that he can do out of Aurora after a basic lightning AoE. Once on you, he'll start draining you, and if you don't mash your way out, he'll hit you with a mean electric attack. If you're too weak to electricity, or too low on health when he hits you with the initial pin, it's an instant send back to camp. Watch out for this new move in his kit. That triple ground-based AoE is another move exclusive to Baleful, and when hit will paralyze you, and can easily lead to a follow-up, or let him set up his egg sac as seen there. His egg sac, unlike Baleful, doesn't actually release baby Gigginox at all. It just does a giant AoE lightning that will paralyze you and let him follow up with an actual AoE lightning attack or his lightning ball. Still able to do anything a basic Gigginox could do, being flipping around, switching his head hit zones, being on the ceiling, long-range projectiles, the works, plus more aggressive AI in general and a faster enraged state. Baleful can be quite the chore to take down, but has a shocking amount of parallels to Khezu. I mean, think about it. He's another cave dweller, sure, but he's a subspecies whose enraged form is red, just like Khezu's red form subspecies. He got rid of all the poison the Gigginox had for thunder and paralysis, just like a regular Khezu. And so it makes me wonder why these guys never came back in replace of Khezu, because let's keep it a buck, they're so much cooler. And their gear's better too. Let's get into that. Starting with the armor, coming with Thunder Attack plus 2, Focus, and Stamina Thief. It seems like a pretty fun set, though Thunder Attack and Focus just don't seem like a great combo skill-wise, just because of weapons that use the respective. But that being said, it's got a 2-2-1-2-1, so the slots are great, and if you just want the Focus or the Thunder Attack, I'm sure it's great for mixing and matching, especially if you wanted to play it along with some of his weapons. His longsword coming in at 240 true raw, 15% affinity, a 2-slot, 130 thunder, almost no white at all, but with sharpness plus 1, a solid chunk of white. That's not bad. Little low on the thunder, but decent raw and good affinity, so workable. You can over to the dual blades, we get 210, a little less raw, but a 3-slot and 300 thunder. No white at all, just a ton of blue and then a little white with sharpness plus 1. Throw these dual blades in with his set and you could make yourself something beautiful. And then the last of his weapons that snack well with his armor is his light bowgun, mainly because it shoots those thunder 1 rounds, has 250 raw, still that negative 10% affinity like the basic Gigginox LBG, and a one-shot. Moving over to his sword and shield, which sadly doesn't stack with the Thunder 2 because it's a paralysis weapon, but just as fun. Natural white, purple sharpness, 230 true raw, a 2-slot. Moving over to the hunting horn, it has 210 true attack, 15% affinity, 2-slot, 280 paralysis, white sharpness with even more. And then moving over to the switch axe, 230 true raw, a 2-slot, 180 paralysis, blue sharpness by default, but purple with sharpness plus 1 and an element file, which sadly I don't think does anything for that paralysis because it would have to be a status file, so I don't know how I feel about that, but an interesting weapon overall, especially for some early G-rank thunder and paralysis weapons to help get through some of the tougher fights. Some overall tips to help with both Gigginox and Baleful Gigginox. Poison and paralysis resistance obviously will trivialize their fights. They do both require high-grade earplugs. Both Gigginox and Baleful Gigginox have their paralysis and poison respective producing organs on their chest. And if you can flip them over through their KO or, stun or putting them in a pitfall trap, however, and hit that chest piece and break it, it will significantly weaken all of their attacks and actually take away some of their AoEs. Minus Gigginox's Egg-Sack AoE. But a good way to weaken them if you're really struggling. Just target the chest, bring some Part Breaker, and it will kind of easy up the fight from there on. And honestly, patience is key. Just wait for them to do an attack, get in there, and beat on their head, and pay attention to when they're enraged, and just keep flipping sides on them. They're actually pretty trivial if you really understand what you're trying to do in the fights. Though I did see a shocking amount of people complaining about these guys when I was looking into them, and apparently they weren't super popular because of how annoying they could be, especially early on with that G-rank poison. Not so much Baleful, more people just don't like basic Gigginox. Baleful seems to get away with it, which is funny because I kind of have the opposite opinion. I find basic Gigginox cooler, although I'm a big fan of how he really doubles down on the Quave, Dweller, Parasite aspect and actually has little Giggies and is constantly doing like the eggs, and the poison makes more sense. Though I do like Baleful's essentially homage to Red Khezu and Khezu in general, and 3 use the Termination to like soft reboot or at least redesign a lot of their staple designs of MH at the time just to see how people reacted. And for whatever reason, when given the choice between 2 cave-dwelling thermal creatures, they chose the literal dick over the 2-headed worm parasite type design. And the world may never know why this decision was made, but it was. All jokes aside, I actually really like both of these guys and really hope they make it into Wilds. The 6th gen glow up could do wonders for Gigginox and Baleful. Turf wars with these guys could be really sick, hearing their theme redone and remade because they actually have one, unlike Khezu's dumbass. Oh, it would be amazing to see these guys come back. You can't even find an official render for Baleful Gigginox's armor. That's how much they've been forgotten. These guys are truly forgotten. They're some of the only monsters from the mainline series that didn't even make it into the Stories games. I mean, damn, what did they do? But all jokes aside, I had a lot of fun going back and visiting these guys, and if you made it this far into the video, feel free to drop a like, a comment, subscribe. I really appreciate the support, and I'm thinking about doing the Sand Whales in the next episode, that or Glacial Ignactor and Ignactor, because they're really fun. And poor Ignactor came back in Generations, but was butchered because he didn't get to do a lot of his fun, like through the ceiling and ground shenanigans. Because he was supposed to be like you were fighting under lava, but you couldn't actually swim in it. One of the few underwater monsters that could come back without underwater.